What happens if I told you the government is pumping large sums of money in a produce that takes up too much land, too much water, too much fertilizer, and doesn't actually have a good enough output to be really profitable? Corn is a horrible produce. It requires large amounts of water, money, and human labor. I'll be explaining you the origins of subsidizing grain, why that is bad, why we did it, and some great alternatives to corn. The origins of grain subsidization happened to begin in 1922 with the Grains Future Act. This act allowed the government to regulate grain trading prices so farmers could actually get more of an influence of the free market with their grain. Next happened in 1929 in the Agricultural Marketing Act. This act allowed the government to buy surplus grain from farmers so they wouldn't go under. This later caused issues of deflating the grain market and overinflating it in certain parts and just horribly wrecked the grain market. So in 1933, the Agricultural Marketing Act helped regulate those overinflating and deflation of grains by the government paying you subsidies to not over surplus your grain. We picked corn for multiple reasons, but the earliest reason is for as a food. You can eat it raw or canned, but the main reason is corn syrup. It's almost in any American food such as sodas, candies, ice creams, sports drinks, energy drinks. The list just goes on and on. But without that, you also can eat popcorn, tortillas, corn oil, or even whiskey. Human food is not the only thing. It can also be used as an animal food for livestock farms. But the main modern day reason is using it as a biofuel. You might go to the gas station and you'll notice there's amounts of ethanol in your fuel. That is what corn is primarily used nowadays, is to be a biofuel for your gasoline. Corn is bad because by the Agricultural Organization, 1 bushel of corn uses 1,750 gallons of water. 1 bushel. By Cornell University, fertilizing corn uses 80 to 100 pounds of fertilizer per acre per growing season. By the USDA, corn uses 37% of all our pesticides since 1973. By the USDA, corn uses 91.7 of our 918 million acres of farming land. Put that 91.7 million in the idea of back to the amount of water we use, the amount of fertilizer, and the amount of human labor that would have to go into applying both of those. Not only that, the worst part is corn is supposed to be a clean biofuel, but the whole process of growing, shipping, and transporting the corn has harmed it. Corn has a kilogram of carbon dioxide per kilojoule of energy of 81 to 85. And you have to factor in tractors, farming vehicles, transportation vehicles, consumers, refineries, all that into that. But do not be afraid. There is multiple crops that are being researched to be a proper replacement for corn. One of them is switchgrass. Switchgrass is a grass that's grown along the prairies. It actually has a negative CO2 to kilojoule rating. It doesn't need much water because it's a grass and has a simple plant structure. Doesn't have many herbs or pests that will consume it or damage it, root systems. And it's a grass, so it also doesn't need much fertilizer because it naturally grows really quick. The best solution that we're experimenting is with algae. Algae is just needs a distilled area area of water to grow in. It's a rapidly growing photosynthetic organism, has a fairly non-complex structure, so it doesn't need much water. It photosynthesizes really fast, so it doesn't need fertilizer. It grows in water, so we're not actually using land, and we can make these water tubes to hold it in to help keep land reserved. And it's just an overall more greener, and it has a massive negative kilojoule or massive negative CO2 to kilojoule of power rating. So now I hope you can see with how the origins of corn happened, why we chose corn in the first place, all the cons that come with corn, and some of the good or better alternatives that come with corn. I hope this has broadened your horizon for understanding the whole issue of subsidizing corn in the modern era. All right, now that one's